right, everybody. Nate Hagerty here again with the Pro Marketer Podcast, where whether you're in the tax compliance or prep, resolution, accounting, or any of the other many slices of our crazy tax and accounting industry, we bring you the tools and strategies to market and build your practice like a pro. Today, I am really happy to have Carlos Samaniego with us. Did I say that right? I'm pretty sure I did, right?
Perfectly, actually.
Yeah, I thought I did. I took 5 years of Spanish in high school, and so I'm fluent, obviously. Anyway, Carlos, we got to know each other. We were speaking on stage together at an event for tax professionals this year. I loved his story. I loved what he is doing from a marketing standpoint. I want to hear about that. But let me give you a little bit more of his bio. So he's an author, he's a speaker, he's obviously a fellow tax professional. He knows the terror of owing the IRS, and he knows it personally because he spent over 8 years not filing taxes. Ouch. And that resulted in thousands, obviously, dollars, we all know, penalties and interest. But he's turned his life around and now specializes in helping, obviously, a lot of tax professionals are listening to this. Not all of you have been in this scenario that Carlos has been in. And so obviously he's in tax resolution, if that makes sense. But he's uniquely promoted his services. He's written a book. He has been featured on Fox News, CBS, NBC, radio throughout the US. And, he is really making an aggressive push on YouTube as well, and does a really amazing job, especially with the video marketing side that I want to hear about. Little fun fact about Carlos that he told me right before we started recording: he was in the military as a medic, and then he spent 13 years as an EMT medic, and then he got fired. And he started to tell me the story, but I'm like, oh, let's save this because this is the good stuff. So what's the story there? And yeah.
Gotcha. Well, obviously, thank you for inviting me here. And I am looking forward to this interview because sometimes I tell my story, and sometimes I find it hard to believe kind of what I've gone to get where I'm at. And
right.
We were talking about, you mentioned, well, what's something unique? And I'm like, something unique a lot of people don't realize. And here's the funny part. I'm always wearing these Navy t-shirts, right?
Yeah.
I said, go Navy, beat Army. Everybody always thinks, oh, were you in the Navy? And I wasn't. I was actually in the Army, and I'll explain kind of why I wear.
But you live in San Diego, so
yeah. I was in the Army. I was a medic in the Army and loved it. Had the passion of serving my country. Everybody in my family, all my dads. I say all my dads. I have my biological father and my stepfather. They both served in the military, and so I always had this dream. I wanted to go. As a high school student, I wanted to go to West Point, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't have the grades and the aptitude to do that. So I ended up because my dad was a medic in the Army. So I'm going to be a medic in the Army. Well, I joined the Army and it was fun for a few months. And then I realized I don't want to do this long term, right? So I actually left and became an EMT. And at the ripe age of 19 years old, I think 19, 20, right around, I ended up working for a local EMT company. And my career lasted for, again, almost 13 years doing that. And I'm just kind of flashing forward to getting fired.
Yeah, you're into the juicy stuff, man.
Yeah, what ends up happening there is, every person that drives an ambulance has to have an ambulance driver's license. You have to have excellent driving record, and you can't have any accidents. Well, I ended up having a small little accident after a long 48-hour shift. I went into a coffee shop, and a drive-through coffee shop, and my ambulance was a little bit too big for the coffee shop. And I literally went under an overhang and I ripped off the top of the overhang and I destroyed the top of the ambulance. Ooh, accident number one, right? Carlos, you know better. Don't do that. Don't get no more accidents. And I kid you not, Nate, 360 days later, I go after a long shift, I park the ambulance and I forgot to put the emergency brake on. And it rolls downhill and crashes into three ambulances. And the reason I say 360 days later, because the way
it had been like 6 more days.
6 more days. It would have been only one accident, but I had 2 accidents in a 1-year time frame. And they came back to me and said, Carlos, we got a problem. You can't be in an ambulance for a year. I go, why? They explained the situation. We can't insure you. So you need to take a desk job. Well, at that time, I'm working like I have that firefighter schedule 10 days a month. I'm like, oh no, there ain't no way in hell I'm working 5 days a week in an office. And I said, what's my options? They said, we fire you or you quit. I said, well, you better fire me because I didn't quit. And they fired me. And that kind of what constituted my new entrepreneurial career.
And for many of those years, you weren't filing taxes? Is that
Actually, and that's where it gets hot and juicy. Is while I was doing that job, I was working a lot of overtime. Right, it was like the second or third year of working that job, and you have the older guy who, I'm 20, he's like 22, and he's like, "Dude, why are you working so much?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm trying to make money for Christmas." He's like, "Just claim 10 exemptions on your paycheck. You'll get this big old giant paycheck." And he was right. I ended up getting a large paycheck because I wasn't paying any taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Tax time rolls around. I go get my taxes prepared and I see this big balance due. I go, I can't afford to pay that. So what do I decide to do? Not file the return. Well, and what happens with most non-filers for people in this industry is your lifestyle kind of matches up to your paycheck. I ended up getting that new 1987 Nissan hardbody truck. I ended up getting a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
All those expenses. And all of a sudden it's like, I can't change this because I won't be able to afford that stuff. So what happens? Year 2, didn't file the tax return.
Right.
And that literally happened for 8 years.
So what, you ended up finding a pro, like an EA like you?
Well, what ends up happening 8 years later, it was actually longer than 8 years. IRS or state never freaking contacted me. It wasn't until like years after I got fired. It was a few years after I got fired. It was the state of California that caught me. State of California sent me a notice, and we'll talk about the state issues. They sent me a notice, hey, you haven't filed a tax return. And I started dealing with them one-on-one, but the IRS still hadn't notified me. And it wasn't, Nate, until I was in my late 30s where I met my wife, and my new career, I met my wife, wanted to have a relationship. I ended up getting married, Nate, and never told her about my tax problems.
Right.
And I realized what I did. I was a scumbag.
Yeah.
You know what? I just married her.
I remember you talking about this at the event.
Yeah, I married her into my tax problems. And that's when I realized I needed to hire somebody right away. In fact, the person I hired was an EA, and he sat me down like the Godfather and said, you know what, Carlos, you're a good guy. You made a bad choice. I'm going to fix your problems. I don't want you to worry about this.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of how I solved my tax problems, and was the beginning. It was the inkling where he kind of put that word in my ear. If you're ever looking into a new career, I think you'd be really good at this.
Here I am. Fascinating. So how long ago was that?
You know what? That was in my late 30s. So we're talking about.
So it's just like a couple years ago, right?
No, I'm 54 now. So
I'm just kidding.
So that was about 17 years ago that happened.
Yeah.
When I got married, started having to deal with the tax issues that I was having.
And so you've been serving, like, your journey to become an EA started.
You know what? It didn't really start. I started doing taxes back in 2003. Kind of when I was fixing all this problem up, at that time, I was actually working in the real estate industry. I was a mortgage lender at the time, ended up doing real estate and stuff like that, and then started dabbling into the tax world around 2003. Where I started, hey, I can make some extra income doing taxes. And
because I'm so good at doing taxes.
Yeah, because I'm so great at doing taxes, right? So it was in 2003 I started doing taxes, and it wasn't until 2000, and I'm trying to think, I'm actually looking at my license here. It was around 2015 where I started thinking about, hey, Ernie, the guy who had helped me, had mentioned getting into this helping taxpayers. And something about me, I think I became a medic because I loved helping people. I loved solving, that rush of an emergency going on and you're able to help. And I've always loved that part of it. And one thing I liked about taxes, you were helping people. But one thing I really loved about this world, of this representation world, is dealing with literally a financial emergency, right? And that's when I happened to meet Jason, which is a mutual friend of ours, Jason Bowman. And I ended up going to an event down in San Diego. I was just a tax person. I wasn't an EA or nothing like that. And he was talking about, it was a training on becoming a tax representation person. And after attending that, I'm like, I'm going to become an EA. And then I literally went through the process. It took me about 1.5 years to do, because, I'm raising a family, running a business, doing all that stuff, and having to study to become an EA.
Right. And so there's two places that I want to take this conversation then. Yeah. I want to hear from you about the representation work and kind of how you see things going, like right now, end of 2022 and into 2023, I think there's going to be a little bit of an apocalypse over the next couple of years with SBA things and all kinds of interesting like idols and business owner problems, as well as consumer level things as well. And I want to hear your take on that, because that's my take, but I'd be interested in yours since you're doing this. And then also I want to hear from you about, like, speaking to other practitioners, because other tax and accounting practitioners listen to this, and talk about what you would see as like the best ways that people could add this to their practice, like steps to take. And I've had those conversations with a few people, but would love to hear from your standpoint. Actually, and then the third is, of course, the video marketing. I mentioned that. You built that and done that well. So just so everyone knows, Carlos, he's not a guru in this space. He's a regular practitioner like you, but he has built a good channel from a marketing standpoint to find tax debtors using YouTube, and he's done a good job. And he is a speaker in the industry. And I say he's not a guru, but he's becoming one, in the sense that, like, he's building, I think, a lot of friends and followers within our world who look to him about these subjects. So which one of those do you want to tackle first, Carlos?
Let's talk about what's already happening.
Yeah.
A lot of us know that the IRS has literally been shut down almost 2.5 years, kind of because they kind of went into a shutdown mode, stopped collections, stopped sending out letters. They really haven't done much. So I personally know a lot of people in this industry that are like, whoa, it's been hard to get clients because the IRS really hasn't been that aggressive. And they're right. They really haven't been until recently. Literally, I would say the last 90. The letters are coming out. I mean, daily I'm getting stacks of letters. I mean, the
recalculations are.
There's all kinds of, there's recalculations. There's old collection notices that should have been sent out are being resent out. This world, the apocalypse for me personally has been going on for a while.
Right. I mean, apocalypse not from your standpoint, but like from a national taxpayer standpoint.
Oh yeah, that has started.
Yes.
There are people that just don't know what the hell to do. Obviously, we all hear about the IRS not answering their phone. 1 in 10 phone calls are being answered. They're at a point where, what do you do? And they need somebody to assist them through this process. Yeah. Me personally, being in California, I deal with a lot of state tax issues. I'm noticing all of a sudden now, a lot of trainers and people are talking about, start working on the state level issues, because I've been doing that for almost 2 years. And they're right. California has been aggressively going after people for the last 2 years. It's kept me extremely busy, extremely. In fact, a lot of my video series will talk about, my entire video series was about California state issues.
You're slurping up people YouTubing about California state tax problems, I bet.
Left and right. Right now, Nate, with my marketing, my video marketing, I'm averaging about 30 people a day reaching out to me. So, that's crazy. So in terms of, is there business to be made? There's a nice fortune to be made of being a service to people that need help, that just really don't know. And so many of these letters are incorrect. And, we can go on and on about what's available. I mean, there is so much help that's needed. And it's funny because I encourage people to get in this industry, and people always crack up. They're like, why are you doing that? It's your competition. You know what? You can have 5 of me in my radius, and they would never, we couldn't tape up the business. And
especially with what's coming.
No, exactly. And the thing with me, I'm becoming international now. I get more phone calls from international clients. Guatemala.
Carlos, you don't need to say that. I knew that. Come on, man.
It's crazy.
No, but it's expats, or is it actually like, debtors in Australia? I mean, what's your...
It's both. A lot of expats. One thing, California is going after a lot of expats. In California, I did a recent video, or I think it was a success story I was talking about.
Well, a lot of California expats to like Austin, Texas, or something like that, you mean? Or like international expats?
International expats. I'm talking about California going after people that never lived in California. Just because they had an address in California, they're coming after them. I mean, things like that.
Baseball players who played games in California.
Things like that.
Yep.
Luckily, a lot of these athletes at least have the wherewithal of hiring a decent tax person that understands you have a tax liability in California. Right. But more of these, a lot of people moving out of the country and not realizing that they have still tax liabilities. So.
All right. So back to the point, though, the current situation. IRS has been a little bit dormant states have been aggressive, and everybody listening to this is probably aware of these dynamics already. I mean, I'm personally aware of it. You know, I've gotten all kinds of state notices, and just for random stupid things that we end up, like, my tax people and I would kind of fight and get it figured out, whatever. But the IRS has been pretty dormant. You're seeing that change? And do you agree with me that, like, the next 2 or 3 years, there's going to be probably even an increase? I mean, so the 87,000, that's obviously PR. I don't see that as like a huge component of the thing. But I do know there's a lot of pressure about ERC fraud. There's a lot of pressure about PPP fraud and idle misuse, et cetera. So do you see that as
there's going to be a huge number of audits involved over the next few years for all the things that you just mentioned there. Huge number of audits. Obviously, what comes on the back end of an audit when you fail? It comes collection work. Me personally, I have people that handle the audit portion for me. That's the last thing I want to deal with. But collection work, it's just, and honestly, I think it's going to be way longer than 2 to 3 years. In fact, another colleague of mine, an attorney, he says you're looking at possibly the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh, wow.
That's how much work is going to be involved here.
What's the basis for him saying that?
It's just the amount. One, it's the amount of people that they're going to go after, and the capacity for the IRS to do a lot of this stuff because of their lack of personnel to be able to handle. So, if we went 2 or 3 years, that's a very small number of people, and there's going to be way more audits than that. So it's going to last for years. And we know that a lot of times the IRS will wait 3 years, and sometimes, depending on what happened on the original paperwork, they can wait up to 6 years.
Right.
If it's, depending on income and things like that. So, so that's why he's saying it could be potentially 10 years.
Wow. So, conclusion to draw, if you are listening to this and you do not have a representation license as an EA or a CPA, it might be worthwhile pursuing that just in order to augment that. And you're hearing somebody who this is his bread and butter, and he has zero concern that you doing that would elbow in on his capacities because of, I mean, honestly, I think that's true of a lot of good tax professionals and any really good business owner, period, to have that abundance mindset. I mean, even in sort of a seemingly low barrier to entry industry as running a marketing agency, which I put that in quotes because doing it like what we do is, not, you can't just wake up and do. But even that, like, the only way to fly is to not be threatened. But what I hear, by competition, but what I hear the note in your voice where you're not even having to, like, go through that process of, like, should I be threatened? Because it's just zero concern because of the volume that's out there.
Concern. Yeah, there's no concern. There's just way too many people.
In fact, you'd welcome it so you can, like, put people.
Well, and a lot of the people getting into this industry right now are some of these bigger companies that we hear about that just do shoddy work, terrible work. And then now you got clients because they went somewhere that didn't do what they were going to do, and then you're able to help them or assist them.
So NAE, Jason's not doing what he does, but I know Dan is out there. There's a bunch of teachers out there. I don't want to put you on the spot to, like, have you point to a particular resource, but where would you send somebody to kind of get the certification and go through the process of...
To get the certification, I actually have one person that I highly recommend because I went through her program. If you're trying to become an EA, you're not an EAC. If you're not an EACPA or an attorney and you want to do this type of work, you got to be one of the three.
Right.
Obviously, I highly recommend Tax Mama.
Tax Mama, yeah. She's awesome.
Is the number one. I went through her program. Not only does she teach you how to pass the test, but she teaches you how to run your business and operate as an EA. So I highly recommend her. That's who I went through. She's literally my tax mama. So
I'm actually going to get her on the podcast.
She's a must to be on your podcast because she knows her stuff, and she's what a lot of people don't realize when you join her program, it's a lifetime access to it. So I go back there every year to get updated on what's happening. So it's a great resource if you're looking to become an EA. So
that's awesome.
Also Pronto Tax School. That's another one.
Yes.
Which has an association
run by Tax Pro marketer client Andy Fry, who I've interviewed multiple times on this podcast, and a close friend.
Absolutely. They got a program which I believe is an association with Tax Mama. So you get two for one right there.
Amen. Yeah, no, Andy is the real deal.
Real deal there.
As well. All right, so tell me a little bit about the journey of your business and how you've evolved into this video marketing expert, because obviously you've figured out, I don't know how early you figured it out, but you're at the point where you realize that your actually role is not necessarily like the doing of the task, but it's actually like you're in the business of marketing these services in a sense. And you can, build a team to help execute a lot of what you do, but your primary role as a business owner is to lead and market your practice. And so tell me a little bit of that genesis and how you got to that point.
Oh, no, absolutely. One of the things, I come from a marketing background.
Mm-hmm. Right. You got Dan Kennedy bobbleheads on your bookshelf.
I come from a marketing background. I was in the real estate industry. I actually had a coaching program for agents and things like that. So I was deep in that world.
Is this why you were not paying taxes?
Probably, man. I was part of way too many Dan Kennedy masterminds. Learn bad habits from a lot of these guys. No,
sure. Yeah. No, I bet you were in some in the same groups back in the 2000s.
Probably, yeah. Hanging out in Cleveland at horse races and things like that. So. Anyway, so
carriage horse races.
Carriage horse races. That's right.
Yeah.
Rashes and things like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, I've learned that a lot of people don't realize that we're in the business of, your business is the business of marketing your services. Mm-hmm. I know amazing people in this industry that are 10 times better at doing what I do, but they're just not good at getting the word out, letting people know what they do. And I knew that's what I needed to become excellent at. And I literally, when I got into this business, one of the things that I learned from Jason, I'd known about this, for me was I need to become an authority in this industry. And the way I became an authority was to write my own book. Mm-hmm. And literally, that's kind of what changed my business dramatically, because Jason kept on pushing it. You got to write your book. You got to write your book. And then I finally wrote my first book, which is this book here, is how to make the IRS an offer they can't refuse. I wrote this book, which is basically the story I basically told you at the beginning of why I do this. And that book became the genesis of my entire marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. Prior to writing this book, I was trying to do marketing. I was trying to do videos, and it was just all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody knew what I was trying
Random acts of marketing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. But once I wrote the book, I knew what I needed to do. My only job was to get people to get this book. That was the only job, because if they got this book, here's what they did. You're only getting this book if either you got a tax problem or somebody has a tax problem.
That's right.
So in essence, they've raised their hand saying, yeah, I'm in that boat. And so whether I went speaking on a stage, speaking at a real estate office, any type of speaking engagement, I was promoting this book. I'm at a point where I give away hundreds of these books every year when I do speaking engagements. When I do my online stuff, whether it's my YouTube videos, Instagram, Facebook, any of my marketing, it's all about go get my book, which you can get a free copy of this book at taxdebtbook.com. And literally, you just found out my marketing secret. I push everybody to one site to download this book. And then when they get there, now they're just entered into my funnel of marketing explosion of emails, SMNs, voicemails, text messages, videos. Mm-hmm. And eventually what happens, people just literally, Nate, I get all these messages daily. And the only thing I have to do is just get here, because people have pre-booked appointments ready to be sold. Mm-hmm. And they're not even ready to be sold. They just want to hear, how am I going to help them? And I sell them. Mm-hmm. And so when I do video, kind of going into the videos, the other thing I realized is that the number one place that people started searching to solve their tax problems was YouTube.
Which is crazy.
And I literally just started doing YouTube videos. And the thing is, I don't have a lot of subscribers. People say, well, how are you an expert? You don't have a lot of subscribers. Well, guess what? A lot of people don't want to subscribe because they don't want to let people know that they got problems.
Right.
You're at home. It's like, honey, why does Carlos keep on popping up? Have you been watching videos?
Oh, no reason. I just am researching about taxes.
Yeah. So, but I can tell you this, I make a 6-figure income off my YouTube channel, yet I only have officially 400 subscribers roughly.
You mean just in like the commissions that YouTube sends you from this monetization?
This is revenue I'm learning off that channel.
Right. So like clients that have come directly from that
directly
YouTube
from
channel.
that.
Right.
I get a minimum of 3 to 4, maybe.
Because you're not monetizing your channel with ads, because you actually don't want to do that. You actually you're not in there to become a YouTuber. You're in there to show up in search results so that people will take action based on actually the content of the ad, rather than just sit back and consume and you rake in the, penny per view that some of these guys get. Right.
Yeah. And I went to a recent, becoming a person that utilizes YouTube. I go to the industry seminars and things like that about that. And this is one of the most misunderstood thing that people don't realize, is that with a very small YouTube channel, you can make a 6-figure income off of.
If you have something behind it to offer.
If you have something behind it, you're providing a service, a consulting, something like that you're providing. And the other avenue with YouTube and videos, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that when people come to see me, when they book an appointment, or whether it's in my office or a phone appointment, they already know me. In fact, they've watched all my videos, they've listened to my podcasts. They walk in here, it's almost like I kind of feel like, oh my God, you're the guy on YouTube. Yeah, that's me. Or when my wife, who works with me, oh my God, you're the girl that he interviewed talking about his tax problem. You know what? You're developing we all talk about this know, like, trust relationship. With media, you can develop that even before they ever meet you on day one. And that's the power behind that video.
No, that's really true. Yeah, it's an unusual thing. I think that a lot of my audience, as you understand, Carlos, is hesitant to kind of take that first step. And so I imagine you had to cross that barrier a little bit. But being marketing oriented, maybe it was a little easier for you to just feel comfortable with failing, because as a marketer, you recognize that there is no such thing as failure, just a bad test result, right? The old Dan Kennedyism. But what do you say to the practitioner who might be semi-terrified about, like, even just opening up QuickTime on their computer and hitting record, because that's all it takes. That's all it takes. You don't need a big setup. You don't need, I've got a light and a microphone, but even if you just get that, like, that's like $100, $200. You clearly have enough daylight. I don't have windows in here, so you don't really even need that stuff. You probably don't even just have anything but a microphone, if that.
I got a mic. I do have a light, because the corner that I sit in, it's pretty dark. So when I do, it's a cheesy little light. I mean,
you get them for $20.
$20, it's literally $20. And I got one just over here to the left for $20. So, but here's the thing: this is all you need right here. That's it. All you need, your phone. And the thing is here's the funny part, Nate. You talk about this. When I started this journey of, I'm going to start doing these videos, I started literally getting all technical. I bought the expensive cameras, I got
DSLR,
you're buying all this stuff, and then I'm buying this editing software to edit all my videos. And the problem is, what I was doing?
Shortcuts and the quick cuts and like multiple things and boop.
Yeah, you're just delaying it. You're just delaying doing it. And I finally gave up. And go watch my videos. Half of them are goofy.
We'll put your YouTube channel in the show notes so people can see it.
Yeah, half of those videos, making mistakes. Hell, I even get some tax people that will reach out to me, friends of mine, made a mistake on that.
Hey, Carlos,
it was this and not that. And I go, yeah, you're right, man. But you know what? Who cares?
Would you rather be right, or would you rather get the lead? No, I get it. Like, you want to be right. You want to make sure that the good information is out there. You care about that, but you're not so concerned that, like, you're going to dot every I and cross every T before you hit record. Is what you're pointing.
And that's it right there. And you know what I found out? Here's a key word with these videos: be authentic. That is if I could pick the number one word that people use when they come and when they're talking to me on the phone, or they're sitting down in front of me, the number one word that comes out of their mouth is, you seem most authentic. You didn't seem like you were pitching something. You were you were just being you. And if you're authentic on these videos, and sometimes having way too much equipment, making that professional look, makes you less authentic. You look like more of that corporate
I agree.
I agree.
Actually, we have a really smooth studio, like 2 doors down, like my office. We have this like psych wall, and I don't like using it for that reason. We'll use it for certain things within our, like, as an agency, within our kind of process, like onboarding, etc. Like, that they know that we're, not just a fly by night operation. But
Right.
when it comes to reaching the broader world, yeah, I mean, I'd rather just be me, you
No,
know?
exactly, exactly. So the more authentic you are, the better. I've even made an active, and I told my family this a couple of days ago, that I'm going to be doing a lot more lifestyle, being with
Hmm.
the family, being at the volleyball games, and it might be YouTube short clips are
Sure.
great use of this, where it's a quick 30, 60-second clip. Hey, I'm at my daughter's volleyball game, because they want to get to know you not just as the tax guy or the tax girl. Who are you as a person? What are you?
Well,
What else is involved in your life? You
tell me
know?
about that from a strategic standpoint. And because it seems to me that, as you mentioned earlier, you're not getting a lot of subscribers per se, but
Right.
people are finding individual videos. And so if you do these YouTube short clips,
Uh-huh.
do you just stuff it with keywords related to what you're talking about? Like how do those get discovered? What's your
More of the short clips are, and I'm doing more detailed studies on shorts. Here's what I've noticed. I started doing them recently. Like a lot of my videos will have, 20, 30, 40 views, a couple hundred views. I'll do a short clip and it have 800 views in 24
hmm,
hours.
hmm.
And a lot of times,
Because they get squeezed in, like when people get on a binge mode or something?
yeah, they'll just get on a binge mode. Or remember this, they may be watching, doing research on a franchise tax board tax problem. And
Hmm.
they're like, oh, okay, now all of a sudden they're at my channel. Well,
Hmm.
they're going to see all the videos and they're going to say, well, who is this Carlos guy? And what's great with those shorts, it's a quick 30-second. Oh, he's a family guy. He's got a daughter. He loves
Yeah.
German Shepherds. He loves to go
Yeah.
hiking. He's not just, they're getting to see who I am as a person.
Right.
And that's what the shorts are great for. Because if you do a whole 10-minute video on your dog, okay, you
Hmm.
might get a bunch of German Shepherd watchers watching that. That's not
Sure.
what I'm looking for, right? I just
Right.
want them to get a little taste of who I am as a person.
Right. Right.
So on my channel, you're going to start seeing me do more of things that I like to do outside of the office. I love to
Hmm.
cook, things like
Hmm.
that, right? I
Hmm.
might show, hey, I just made this plate,
Hmm.
whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And again, that's just more from the relationship building with these people that are thinking about hiring me. It's funny, Nate, actually, just right before we got on this call, I had somebody call me and she's going to get started here tomorrow. Been on my list for 6 years.
Hmm.
6 years. And she had recently went back to my YouTube and saw a couple of videos. And she says, you know what? There must be a reason why this is popping up. I need to come see him.
Hmm.
So that's the power behind video.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I love that. I wish that more practitioners would take this to heart. It's funny because, it's not in my self-interest to say this because we actually don't provide, this kind of service, except that like we do at a very, like if you need help, we actually do have a video influencer package, but it's $20,000 and it might not be something that everybody wants to do. But like, you don't need that unless you really just want like the handheld through the whole process, which some might. We actually have a client who was about to sign up for that. But my point in saying that is that like you're not doing all the things that like we do for our clients. Like, some of the email marketing, although I think you do a lot of that on your own, but nonetheless, just building this front end, this awareness stage vehicle, as I talk about the different stages. Carlos, you've seen me do my spiel. The front end awareness stage, this is a powerful medium that we're not doing for you, but like everybody listening to this could do on their own and do it well. And I'd be thrilled about that, frankly.
Right. Just what it does is whatever marketing they're doing already, whether it's newsletter, email marketing, it enhances it because, a lot of my emails now are going to start referring to different videos I've done.
Yeah.
I'm actually going back into a lot of my email campaigns and PS. Take a look at my German Shepherd that I recently rescued.
Are you on my list?
What's that?
Are you on my? You're on my list, right? I do that. Yeah, I put those photos in the PS.
Oh no! Every time, and you know what? I'm being on your list. You get to know you as a person, and you're not just this marketing guy, right? I know you as the person, and that's what a lot of people don't get when they're hiring their tax person or their resolution person is they just know them as the tax guy, and it makes a big difference.
And the value there is that there's loyalty, and it increases the amount of referrals that you'll generate from those clients. And if you do have a like another service besides the resolution, like if you can do, planning or preparation as part of it, compliance work along the way, and you have, or at least like a relationship with somebody who can handle that on your behalf, that you can refer out and get a part of that fee, like you've got their business for a long time. Whereas if you're just their service provider, it's a different level of loyalty.
No, absolutely, because it's hard to replace you when they're trying to replace a friend. It's really hard. And when you become a friend, it makes a big difference. There's a new book. The book's not even new. It's just, he gave me a copy of it. Pat Flynn. He wrote a book called Superfans. You want your clients not to be followers, not to be subscribers, not to be customers, but you want them to be fans of yours. Become a fan. When they're fans of yours, if something happens to you, they're the ones rushing to your defense. And I had something happen recently, and they're rushing to my defense because someone had said something that is just a total made up bullshit. Correct. Sorry.
It's fine.
It was just a bad story. They're making stuff up. But you know what? When you are your authentic self and people try to mess with you, your fans will come to your rescue. They will.
That's right. I love it, Carlos. Well, man, thank you. What's the best place that practitioners could connect to you, Carlos? Do you have anything like that? Because let me just say this. I urge you to start teaching about this more in our industry, Carlos, because we need people like you out there. There's enough. There's some really quality people out there, but there's a lot of sharks and freaking, I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of people out there that are just, they're out there to make a buck, and they've figured out some of the things you've figured out, and they can gather a crowd, and then they charge super high prices. So for not very good output. So
actually, Jason's been pushing me on that, and I'm considering something similar to that, something small, something. I just want to work with a few people, but I'm always here to answer questions. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always available. You can go to my website, carlossamaniego.com. It's just my standard website, kind of my speaker website. Right. And Tax Debt Consultants is my primary website. And if you want to get a copy of the book, either Tax Debt Consultants or taxdebtbook.com. You can get a copy of the free PDF. So, but I got nothing to sell you.
That's great. So, I'm not opposed to having people sell things. I mean, a workman is worth his wages, but it needs to be something good. But you do have good things, Carlos, and so you got a proven track record. And I'm really grateful to have you on this to tell to hear your story, and I hope that people will act on it. So good job, man. This has been really, really good.
I appreciate you and what you do in this industry, because you know what? There's people that just have no clue and they need help, and they really do.
Yeah. So, well, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Saying that. Yeah, man.